Hello, hello. Welcome to Clean Breakthrough, brought to you by Greenville Transitions. I am Lucas. That's David, and that's Cole. Take a guess on who's who.
Good
It's
morning.
powered by.
Oh, now they come in. All at once, y'all. All at once, all together. We are going to be reacting to an Instagram video that I saw that I thought was funny, talking a little inside baseball from the 12-step community. I feel like some people would think this is relatable, and then we're just going to kind of break it down of what this guy's talking about.
Okay, I got it pulled up here. I'm assuming y'all can see this. So I'm going to hit play and then we'll go from there. Ready? And go.
Quick tip for the newly sober homies. When you're in a meeting, go find the guy with the polo tucked into his khakis and the shit-eating grin on his face and beg that man for help. That guy's done crazier shit than you can imagine. Underneath that Kirkland brand quarter zip is the fucking Hulk. Don't get him loaded. You wouldn't like him when he's loaded. Yeah, that guy. The one who looks objectively corny, but seems like he's having a great time. It takes a lot of work to care that little about your drip. That guy seems more put together than me. Yep. That's what we're going for. He's less fucked now, so go chill with him. Or sit in the back with the kid with a cigarette tattooed on his forehead like, yeah, these are my people. I kept myself high for years, convinced that the smiling, laughing, graceful people that were trying to help me weren't for me, and that I didn't want what they had. I'm different. But the much uglier truth was that I didn't believe I could be like them. And that was hard to admit. It was easier to lie to myself saying that I didn't want to be smiling, laughing, and loving. That's the disease I have. It's gonna lie, and I'm gonna believe it. My disease isn't in the parking lot doing push-ups. It's in the conservatory taking acting lessons. Damn, that's a bar. I know, I didn't write it. It's like, imagine you're starving. You're hungrier than you've ever been in your life, and you're broke. And you walk into this room full of nice people, and they're like, hey, we have steak for free. New York strip, dry aged, just like you like it, medium rare. And it's all yours. You just gotta hang out with us a little bit. And you're like, no thanks. I've got a pile of dog shit at home I'd rather eat alone, but I appreciate it. And look, no knocking cigarette face. He's on his journey like the rest of us, but I'm trying to grow. He can take my hand and join us over here. I'm only going down there to reach and pick him up. But my buddy Tristan has 6 months sober and a car. I'm not saying to ditch Tristan, but keep old man Jenkins close. Tell him the truth and then do what he says. He's experienced the pain for you. We're all gonna do dumb shit. Thank God I'm human. But it doesn't tell me anywhere in the book that I have to. I can just call old man Jenkins and be like, hey, do you think I should take out a loan on this thing that I don't need and can't afford? And he'll say, have you prayed about it? And I'll say no. He'll say, right. And then we'll both laugh and I'll do it anyway. I love you guys. DM me if you need a Jenkins, and if not me, I'll get you in touch with one. Quick tip for the newly sober homies. When you're in a meeting.
A Jenkins?
Old man Jenkins.
Old man Jenkins.
So I hadn't actually seen that video. David, had you watched it?
No. I saw like 20 seconds of it and I got cut off.
I got you. Okay. All right. So we're talking about Shmay with
12 step.
F12 steps. Yep. With this, what David, what's your first reaction to it?
I mean, I can relate a lot to what he's saying. I think the thing that stood out to me the most is like, you're probably not going to be attracted to what you need in the beginning. Like, right when you come through the doors, you're going to see a lot of people, and they're happy. They are talkative, and that just wasn't an appealing thing to me in the beginning. When I saw that, I was like, ugh, immediately, this is not for me. I don't want to do this. So it was a lot of like listening to what other people were telling me to do in the beginning and getting guidance.
Yeah, my reaction is it's interesting looking at the comments on these videos, because the amount of like trolls, but then also people just having like pretty positive stuff. This is meant to be like a video that's got some levity to it. Like the guy's like talking about it in a humorous way, giving some funny analogies, to maybe don't take it quite so serious. is my like first reaction to it. But I think there's a lot of really good points in it. And even though I'm not personally in 12 steps, I get like the point where people will be like, oh, it's, like these people are all happy and they want something from me, like, I don't want to be like them. Is it a cult? Blah, 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 blah. It's a lot of these like naysayers. And what came to mind without kind of thinking that, like what somebody who is against like recovery or recovery meetings might be thinking, like I can see like why somebody would put those defenses up. What's interesting being like a substance abuse therapist, if people put those same defenses up with me, like they'll be like, oh, you're not personally sober, or what is this office? Why do you have so many Legos in it? And oh, like you like want to like talk about this stuff, or my mom sent me here, whatever. Like the list of grievances is really long at first. And I think that's what he's trying to talk to somebody who's like newly sober. Like you're going to have a list of grievances with everything in life because life sucks. And the reason life sucks is you don't have the thing that was helping you get through life powering you anymore. And you're going to have to find some new stuff, and that sucks, So yeah, I can just, I can appreciate the guy like trying to offer it in a funny way of what you were saying, David. Like the thing I need may not be the thing I want, and probably isn't the thing I want. So yeah. Lucas, what about you? Why does video speak to you?
Yeah, I just think that it nails a lot of stuff that everybody kind of knows once you've been around for a while. And I think also that everybody has experience in the beginning, like David was saying. I think that I am what I attract. I think that it's funny what you were just saying, Cole. Like, if somebody isn't in recovery, then I'll say that they can't understand because they're not in recovery. And then if they are in recovery, I'll say that they're too informed by their own opinion and trying to just like push their perspective onto me because that's how they got sober, and that they don't understand that my way of getting sober is going to work for me. So it's kind of damned if you do, damned if you don't. And then not wanting to be there, it's like, well, who am I going to click up with? People who love to be there, or a guy sitting in the back corner around my age who also looks like he's forced to be there and not happy about being there. Misery loves company. So I'm going to go click up with that guy and complain about how stupid the meeting is and how 12-step doesn't work and whatever. So like the last guy that I wanted to get as a sponsor was some old man Jenkins in the quarter zip Kirkland, talking about how happy he was and how much he loved life and how grateful he was for his sober life. I mean, A, that sounded corny to me, and then B, I just don't know that's what I wanted. I didn't want to be happy and sober. I wanted to be miserable and sober so that I could justify going back to being happy and high.
Mm-hmm. David, tell us,
Yeah.
Kirkland clothing, pretty sick or not? Give us a report.
So my mentor he was a Kirkland guy. He was like Kirkland quarters, the Kirkland shoes, just like always put together, always on time.
It's a guy who gets value.
Yeah, that was my main. I will say, in my first treatment, first sponsor, I took suggestions every time. And the first one, I think I mentioned it on a podcast not too long ago, where they were like, you need to get this guy. He's like the godfather of Shmay Shmay. And it was like an 88-year-old guy. We had nothing in common. He was like falling asleep when I'd go to talk to him. I was like, okay, maybe this isn't the right fit for me. And then I went to like sober living in Asheville and asked people there. I was like, hey, who would be a good match for me? And I was asking people who knew the area, they knew the people in the rooms, and they were like, hey, I actually think this guy would be really good. And it happened to be that Kirkland quarter zip guy, who I was like, nerd. But I quickly came around to really enjoy him, enjoy talking with him, and I got a lot of good stuff out of that relationship.
I also see it like kind of it's either a return to or at least a step away from how someone typically interacts in addiction. Because when you think about like that idea of like, I'm gonna go to the back of the room and I'm gonna sit with the other guy who had like cigarettes or whatever, like that is typically what somebody's doing and their addiction. Like they are pulling away from like the teachers, the parents, the coaches, the friends who like they grew up with. They're typically like just pulling away, just happening and isolating and being around people who also justify that mindset, who justify that behavior. So you're right from the get-go going and trying to like integrate in or talk to somebody who you don't seem to have a lot in common with at first glance. You're on a deep level signaling to your mind, body, soul that, hey, we're doing this in a different way, with this willingness to go like talk to this person and actually like try to connect in this meeting. Because for so long, disconnected is like what people would use to justify, like what you guys kind of both referring to, justify your behavior and just pull away and isolate so you can just, do what you want to do when you want to do it. So I don't know. There's something, it takes a lot of courage though to go approach old man Jenkins, because it's something that people either have never done, depending on their age, or they haven't done in a really long time. And it's like kind of returning to yourself on some level.
Yeah, the way that guy was talking to made it sound like he was just like solo going into these experiences, like walking into rooms, walking up to people. I had a very different experience where I went to programs, I went to treatment, I went to sober livings. So I already I was walking into these rooms with a group of people. Like I already felt part of something. And I can't imagine having to walk in solo, especially I was 23 years old when I was walking in. And that would have been terrifying to me. So at least I had these people that I could say like, hey, who would be good, or what would be a good situation for me? And they kind of would guide me in the right direction.
Well, and 12-step varies a lot meeting to meeting. But even at like 15, when I went to my first meetings, not really knowing anything about it, I knew that people were going to come up and talk to me and try to get to know me. And that's why I didn't walk in until the meeting already started. And I left right before they prayed at the end, because I knew that if I did that, nobody would have a chance to talk to me. So it's funny how it's like, oh, it's going to be so hard having to talk to people or like approach them. But even at 15, barely having gone to like a meeting or two, I knew that nice people were going to come over to me and be like, hey, what's your name? When did you get here? Like, what's going on? Can I sponsor you? Do you want to come out to eat with us? Like, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, I don't want to do any of that. But I probably would have told you like, oh, I have to approach them, as kind of more of an excuse. And not to say that you don't have to do that. And again, meetings are different. There's meetings you could walk into and nobody would look at you, let alone talk to you. They could be kind of cliquey.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this is also, for some reason, I'm pivoting a little bit here, but this is, I think, a human experience, because for some reason it makes me think about going to work conferences. And like I have gone to work conferences with like, either like people I knew were there, or I had like coworkers with me, and it's easy to click up and not really meet anybody there. So I could see being in like your situation, David, with coming into a meeting with like, other people in the program, and that being a detrimental thing to me for long term, because I would just like click up with like my buddy that I like live with, or at a work conference, like coworkers I'm there with. But the more of those, I've seen that like the more of those I've gone to like work conferences, the easier it is to interact with people, even if I have coworkers there, just because you're just getting more and more experiences around it, So some reason it's just drawing like a parallel for me there, like not hiding out with like people, and feeling like confident enough that, okay, I can try to like meet some people or introduce myself and feel a little more comfortable with that. But it's a scary thing. Like it really is.
Well, and in 12-step, it's like all about reaching out to the new person.
Yeah.
And I'm not the best at it. I'm not the worst at it. I'm like somewhere in the middle. But at a conference, I don't feel that responsibility to like someone who's looking a little lonely in the corner, because I'm like, I'm lonely and in the corner too. I don't want to talk to anyone. That guy's got to figure it out for himself. I'm fighting for my life in here, having to talk to these people. And then in 12 step, I know what it's like where I'm like, oh, that sucks so much when you're going to your first meeting. And like, I'm going to go at least introduce myself, get his name, and tell him we'd love to see him back and whatever. Like little stuff that might make a difference. For me, the biggest difference maker was somebody knowing my name if I went to a meeting once and then I came back the next time, because it felt like it was like everyone had an obligation to just come up and talk to me, but that they didn't care enough to like actually remember my name or anything about me. They're in just like robot mode, just like, oh, good to see you, good to see you, good to see you. So when I came back and they actually remembered my name, there was something about that that instantly made me feel so much more comfortable. Like people actually cared that I came back, or that they cared when they met me, whatever.
Yeah. When did it shift from being this thing where like these people actually care versus like they have to do this, like they have to like introduce themselves to me, and this is just the way the system is set up? Like when did it shift to like, no, this is truly people care about me? Did that come from the name thing, or did it just come over time?
I mean, the name thing to a minor extent, just enough to feel a little more comfortable. But then, yeah, probably like 3-4 years in, like my whole experience in sober living in Asheville and going to meetings, I really hated AA and didn't want to do it. But then I just had a couple friends from my sober living, David being one of them, and most of them were like staff that, had to talk to me and be nice to me when I was in sober living. But then the fact that they were calling me once I graduated sober living, I was like, okay, maybe they actually are my friend. And then in 12 step, I was still kind of turned off to that of like, oh, but all these people suck. It just so happens to be that these couple friends I have go to 12 step. You know what I mean? It wasn't like they were a reflection of that. They were an exception of that. And then when I came to Greenville with like a very sour attitude towards 12 step and stuff like that, it was maybe a year or two in that I kind of started to buy in more and see the good, and because I was finally open to it.
Yeah, that's interesting. Like, why do you feel like there was a sour attitude when you came into Greenville? Because you're talking about being several years sober there and having gone to a lot of meetings at that point. Why do you think that relationship was going up and down?
Because I'm an egotistical, arrogant, ignorant control freak.
Oh boy, keeping it real.
And when I went to sober living, people told me I had to go to meetings and I had to get a sponsor and I had to do this and that. And just because they said I had to, I didn't want to. And I was going to show them that I could do it without it and blah, 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 whatever. And it goes back to the, like, do you want to be happy or do you want to be right? And at some point I realized that I wanted to be happy more than be right.
Mm-hmm.
And so then I went back with a more open mind, and it was a totally different experience, and I've loved it to this day. But in the beginning, it was just because somebody said that I had to, and I didn't want to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think you were doing it for more of like an internal reason as opposed to like externally being told to do it. You also matured a bit too. That's another part of it. Like some of it, like you just got to grow up and let your brain heal a little bit, let your brain develop, I guess. Probably a better way to describe it.
I was 25 when I got sober. So I was probably closer to 30 when I kind of, what was it? 2020 was COVID. 5 years. Yeah, it was like 5 years. And I remember I went to a young people's meeting and some people there were like, oh, like, we're so glad you're here. Because I would like take guys to meetings all the time and always like talk up 12 step to them. Because like, even that's funny that like, I knew it worked enough to recommend it to other people. But I was like, well, now that I'm sober, I'm kind of good on that and whatever. And then I remember I went to a meeting somewhere like a little bit into COVID. And there were people I'd seen over the years at meetings in Greenville. And they were like, dude, we're so glad you're here. Like, please come back next week. We could like really use, and this is what probably got me. And it's like the ego stroke. They're like, we really need like good people in recovery like you to come back. And I was like, me, good person in recovery? I could come back. I could make time. And then I came back and it was just like this positive momentum loop of like, I would do like service stuff and people would be like, thank you so much for doing that. And it was just like kind of the perfect positive storm of what I needed to keep having a little bit of reason, to come back and then help new people and start sponsoring guys again. And get a sponsor and make that my home group and do service positions and all the stuff that they talk about. It's like once I finally did it all, I was like, oh, I get like A, why this works, and B, why now I want to come here, because I'm getting that. Like I finally not got the opportunity to. I finally pulled my head out of my ass enough to give to 12 step rather than to just take from it. And that changed my experience with it.
It's super cool when you get stuff, you know, like that you didn't even know you needed. You know what I mean? That like a hole that you didn't even realize you had was getting filled. That's kind of what you're describing there. Like being told, like, hey, I have some value, I have some worth, I'm a good person in recovery. You're like, okay, sounds good. Now years later, you can look back and be like, man, that's clearly like what I needed, ego hit or not. Like I need to feel like I was valued, and then have like taken that and then turned it into something where I can like try to make other people feel like they're valued, you know, help provide that. It's just super cool when you can like reflect back on that and see it.
Always takes time. You know, I didn't see that at the time. I probably didn't see it a year into it. I don't know if I saw it before this conversation, to be honest, and just you asking about it of like, yeah, that was why that was. And that's why it worked for me. And then I was, this is moving backwards, but I just wanted to touch on it real quick. Cause when you come into 12 step, they say, when you're thinking about who to pick for a sponsor, they say, pick someone who has what you want. And I think it's also really funny how that changes over the years, where like when I came in, the first sponsor I picked was young like me, did heroin like me, had a pretty girlfriend, enough money to be able to seem to do cool things, was getting tattoos up and down his arms, dressed cool, acted cool, and was, yeah, probably like early to mid 20s. And I was like, oh, and he went through the treatment that I was at, the wilderness treatment. So I was like, oh, that guy. I was like looking for a carbon copy of me at that moment, just like a year down the road with everything that I thought would be cool and what I wanted out of recovery, which was all this like superficial external stuff. And then, you know, go figure. And I don't mean to knock him at all, but like when I was on my 4 step, which I delayed heavily on, so that's what I'll probably blame the majority of this on. But well, not his relapse, but anyways, I went to get in touch with him and I couldn't get in touch with him to be like, hey, I finished my 4 step. And it had turned out that he had relapsed because he was maybe like a year, 2 years sober. And I don't know. I only looked for all the wrong things for like how to pick somebody versus like the sponsor I have today was more like who has security, who has stability, who has peace, who do I think handles like tough situations with grace, who has wisdom and a lot of experience. That's the kind of stuff that I want from a sponsor today and that I want to rub off on me, because also I've like figured out more of like who I am, to where it's like the whole thing of like figuring out who I am. Like, am I a guy with tattoos? Am I a guy who's going to get piercings? Am I a guy who's going to have a hot girlfriend? You know, and like you get a little further into life. And at least for me, I feel like I know who I am for the most part and like who I want to be. So now the vision is clearer and it's just getting around the right person to rub off on me.
I want to go back to and talk about different characteristics with these sponsors and mentors. It's just like the Kirkland quarter zip. But in my experience, and Lucas, correct me if I'm wrong or feel free to chime in, there were like 2 different personalities. And there was like a group of sponsors that were like, all right, for the first 30 days, you're going to call me every day between 2 p.m. and 6 p.m. and check in with me. And if you're not that serious, and if you don't, you're just not that serious and this isn't going to work out. And then you'd have the other group that's like, yeah, you know, just call me when you feel like you need something. And if you don't have to call. But if you ever want to get to the next step, call me. And I would even try to match guys up based on that. Like if they were driven is coming to mind, but I don't want to say driven. If they were kind of like motivated to do things on their own, I would kind of pair them with that sponsor that was a little more like, hey, call me when you want to call me. Because I paired up with that person because I feel like if I had the other kind, the addict in me would have been like, screw this. I'm not calling. Don't tell me what to do. Like, I get to control the script here. I get to write it. But if there are other people who need that responsibility, who need the person that's like, no, call me every day. And maybe I did need a little bit of that too, but I saw those two very distinct personality types or characteristics. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think there's the people in the middle, and that's always who I kind of liked the most, was like accountability, but with like a cooler, calmer demeanor that didn't feel like the guy who was like, you're going to call me every day and you're going to do this and that. It felt like that was speaking from experience of people like not doing it, and to where it just became like more hardened over the years of like, we're not friends. I'm not getting close. You're going to call me every day between this hour and this hour. It felt like this wall that was kind of put up maybe after like years of bad experiences, and just feeling like I got to be super hard and upfront with these guys. And that felt like I was kind of carrying the burden for sponsee's failures for years. And then the guy that was like too easy, I'm just like, I'm never going to call you. If you tell me only call you when I need you, I'm just going to make the thing that I never need you and talk to anyone else besides you. So like I needed somebody kind of in the middle, but I agree that both of those are out there. And normally the guy who needs the accountability, the hardcore, you're going to call me, is like the last guy who would ever want it. You know what I mean? Like they'd be like, I can't be with that guy. It's like, you kind of need to be with that guy. Because if it's anybody that's like, call me whenever, you're never going to call him. You're kind of looking for like a pushover that you can check the box and have a sponsor and name only, but then not actually have to use them or do any of the stuff that we're talking about, which is like the good part, dude. That's where you actually get better. Sitting your butt in a meeting and having a sponsor and name only doesn't get you better. It just checks the box that you're like doing some shit. Actually like working steps and forming a good relationship with a sponsor and doing service positions and getting a home group, like the second layer, the third layer to this stuff, like that's where you actually, what I was talking about earlier. My experience in the first 2 years was having a sponsor and name only, like going through the steps kind of in name only and sitting down in AA meetings. And my experience 5 years later was like really doing it. And then lo and behold, when I really did it, I got way better results and liked it more.
I guess I should clarify a little bit, because the only people that I were around and the only people that I was like helping find a sponsor are people that were in treatment and sober living. And so I guess I should change the language to the rule followers are the ones that I would pair with the guy who was like, oh, just call me when you need me, because they had rules typically for treatment or sober living of like, hey, you got to meet with your sponsor once a week. You got to make your bed in the mornings. You've got to do your chore, like wipe down the counters at night. And if it were the guy that was like following rules and he was making his bed and wiping down, doing his chore, he was going to therapy, that's the one I'd be like, okay, you could probably be with this guy who's like, hey, call me when you need me, because he's going to follow the rules. And the guy that doesn't follow the rules, that's the one that needs you're going to call me every day at 2:30 p.m. on the dot.
Yeah, I agree. Someone who's just like more kind of compliant, maybe not super willing or motivated, but it's just like, I'm going to follow the rules and do everything I have to do. And then I do think like if you go through the motions, you'll still get the benefit, as long as you're like actually doing the stuff to some extent.
I think the other thing too is nice as well. Like, like, hey, actually doing this and engaging is going to get you better. If you go back though, like that's not, people don't necessarily know that unless they've like had like repeated like forays into recovery and sobriety, and they can point back to, hey man, things were really good when I was sober. Most people, I would say, don't know, like they don't know what better is, or if that is, possible. And it's just super scary. And so they stick to what they know, kind of play it cool from an ego protection, like place, or hang out with the people in the rooms and make them feel comfortable, as opposed to pushing themselves to the person who doesn't, yeah, it's just interesting. And it takes a lot of humility too, to like look beyond like the Kirkland pullover, or to judge the book by a cover. It takes a lot of, you have to be like pretty like open-minded to do that. And I think open-mindedness comes from confidence, like self-confidence, So it's a tough thing to do.
And people normally don't have any real self-confidence walking in the rooms. Some people project that they have it, because they're scared to look like they don't have it. But I find that it's kind of a straw house if it was in the Three Little Pigs.
I don't, I think it's one of those things that like, I think all of our self-confidence gets hit and dwindled every day. Maybe some of us more than others, but I think it's something that you almost have to build every day. Like you have to like build that up. And especially if you've been living like a life of addiction, it's been so tattered and just broken down. But building up self-confidence is like, I think very much merged with integrity of like, I'm just going to keep doing the right thing, just keep chipping away and doing the right thing. And I do that enough, my self-confidence grows.
Well,
But
it's like they say esteemable people do esteemable things. So like walking into the rooms, what did I have to be confident about?
Yeah.
Like how disappointed my family was in what was with me, the jobs that I lost, the opportunities I messed up, the girlfriend that left me, the friends that weren't really around, the friends that were around, but only when I had, drugs and alcohol and all that kind of synced up. It's like I just didn't have much to be confident about if I was honest with myself. And that's where I pivot more to like, yeah, but look at this cool tattoo and look at this Nike shirt or these Yeezys or like whatever, of like anything other than looking at like me as a person. What did I have to be confident about? And I know people come in all different kinds of places, and some people come in, they're still super successful at their job and still have their marriage and whatever. But I would bet you there's some strife in their life. Otherwise, like if drugs and alcohol isn't giving you any consequences on like your character and your relationships, why are you trying to get sober?
Yeah, there's definitely been a moment where you're like, this is not what I signed up for. Whether it's come from this like very chaotic situation, like with a lot of legal troubles and all this like failures. But at some point there's been like a look in a mirror of like, man, like how did I get here? This is not something I ever thought was going to happen. So I got to do something different.
Yeah. People don't come in the first 6 months, of like using. That's when it's still working and everything's great. You're like, why are you here? And like, I don't lie to people. I don't manipulate people. I'm a really good guy. I'm crushing it at my job. Things have never been better. Women want me. Men want to be me. Why am I here? It's like that guy just doesn't come in.
Yeah.
It's because some consequence has happened that reflects on your character. And there's some like mismatch of, like you said, basically integrity of like who I want to be versus who I actually am.
Yeah.
So I come strolling in, and I darken the doors with my shadow.
Yep.
But there's a lot to that. And the last PSA that I'll say is that if you are that guy that sponsors the way that David sponsored, I would always ask why you sponsor that way. And I find that a lot of times guys will say like, well, that's how my sponsor sponsored me. I'm like, and did you like that? When you like called him about a problem and he was like, have you prayed about it? And you said no. And then you just heard the phone click and hang up. Like, did that feel good? Did you like that? Did that make you feel supported or like to talk it out? And they're like, no, I hated it. I'm like, then why are you doing it to other people? It reminds me so much of like fraternity stuff where it's like everyone's like in senior class hazing the freshman class and you ask them why. And it's like, well, because someone did it to me. And the only thing that got me through that was knowing that like 4 years later, I would get to do that to someone else. So I just feel like there's always a deeper examination to have there of like why anybody sponsors the way they do, does therapy the way they do, and separates that from how it was done to them versus like what they actually think would be effective or good. Whether that's like, and really that goes to so many things, like the type of boss I want to be, the type of coworker I want to be, the type of father I want to be, the type of husband I want to be, the type of friend I want to be, the type of sponsor I want to be, the type of customer I want to be. Like it's like every facet of life I have gotten to experience from the other side, which is a unique experience, to then be like, oh, I liked this or I didn't like that. That's how I'm going to give it back when it's my turn to be on the other side. I'm going to not do what was done to me if it wasn't good. Yes, over.
Yeah, I think that's why it's important to have all. I think that's why it's easier to maybe tap into that when you get older because you've had a lot of those experiences. When you're younger, like you don't know what it's. I don't know. You've only had so many interactions with bosses or friends or different people in different places. So part of this growing up process is getting more experiences with different people and being like, how do I want to be treated? Did this feel good or not? Like, do I want to, like, pay this forward or whatever, and it just takes time for people, and for that to be like very much taught over the years. You could do it with young people, but you need to be real intentional. I'm trying to teach them that. And it's really hard. We're just pretty like egocentric and self-centered for our own survival. But I have those conversations with my daughters. Like, when they get a new person in the class, I'm like, well, did you talk to them? And sometimes they're like, yeah, sometimes no. I'm like, well, think about the amount of times I say, like, think about if you were in that position, if you were in a brand new school that you didn't know anybody, how would you want to be treated? How would you want to be treated? And we just have to be reminded of that constantly. I still need to be reminded of that today at 40 years old.
What kind of full circle back to, like, how did you want to be greeted when you came into a 12-step meeting for the first time?
Right.
When someone did come up and talk to you, did that matter? Did that help? And if it did, why not give that to someone else? Go ahead, David.
I sat in the back and I was like, please don't talk to me. Please don't talk to me. Please don't talk to me.
If I go to the bathroom 10 times, that'll at least cut the meeting in half as far as how much I'm accessible to other people.
Exactly.
And I can just vape and play on my phone in there. So, I mean, it's not like I'll be bored. I'll probably get a better time than them out there having to listen to all that garbage. And then I'll leave before the prayer. I'll come in 5 minutes late. All right, we've shaved off 10 minutes there. How else can I shave off time? I'm only going to be in this minute for about 60 seconds.
I can swipe on Tinder. That'll make me feel good about myself.
Oh, for sure. I'm getting validation, entertainment, and nicotine all in the bathroom. Why would I ever leave? Why would I come out there? So one of them could talk to me, ask me how I'm doing. No way.
Good stuff.
Good video, Lucas.
Hey, that guy's got a second one that I also sent to y'all. So maybe next week.
I think it's good to have levity thinking about this stuff too, to go back to the guy's like vibe and what he's talking about. It's a very vulnerable thing going in there and trying to get better, and it's really serious. So I think, having some humor to balance it out is super important, So
yeah, for sure. You got to joke about it. Hey, I'd rather laugh about it than cry about it,
Yeah, but we got to cry too,
right.
right, Lucas? We got to cry too.
Nope, we never cry.
Yeah, all right. Whatever you say, big guy.
My
Big dog?
my eyes just get moist and humid. I don't.
Yeah, you're the biggest crier on this call.
I know, but then I don't actually cry.
You get real watery.
I just get humid.
Yeah.
But I can't.
All right. Yeah.
We want to wrap it up?
Yeah, let's wrap it up.
Wrap it up.
All righty.
Thanks for coming, y'all. Come back and see us next week on Clean Breakthrough, powered by Greenfield Transitions. That's Cole, that's David, and I'm Lucas. Adios.